I've been fishing the same spot on the river for almost 4 years now. About 20 minutes outside of town, down a dirt access road most people don't even know exists unless they grew up around here. There's a small clearing right where the current slows near a bend, and that's where I always set up. Every Saturday morning, same time, same spot. I work security overnight during the week, so weekends are pretty much my only real shot at being outside and clearing my head before I flip back to sleeping days. I usually get there around 6:30, right as the sky starts turning that gray-blue color before sunrise. I like getting there early because nobody's ever around. In 4 years, I think I've run into another person maybe twice, both times just some guy walking his dog on the trail above the bank. This spot isn't on any map or app. My uncle showed it to me back when I was a teenager, and I never told anyone else about it because I liked having it to myself. I keep a small routine going. Coffee first, then load the truck the night before so I'm not fumbling around half asleep at 5:30 in the morning. Same green folding chair every time, same tackle box, same beat-up cooler with 2 sandwiches and a couple sodas. Not exciting. Just mine. That's kind of the whole point of it. My uncle used to say a fishing spot is like a good secret. It only stays good as long as you don't tell anybody, and I took that seriously even after he passed. I never brought a girlfriend out there, never brought my roommate, never even told coworkers where I disappeared to on weekends. It felt like the one thing in my life that was completely mine. This particular Saturday started out completely normal. Up around 5:45, made coffee, packed the truck, nothing different from any other week. Drive out was quiet, just me and the radio. When I pulled up and parked, everything looked the same as always. Same trees, same slope to the water, same smell of wet dirt and pine. I grabbed my tackle box and rod and started down the little dirt path toward the clearing. That's when I noticed something. My folding chair, the green one I always bring and set up myself, was already sitting by the water, facing the river, exactly where I usually put it. For a second I just stood there staring at it. I hadn't taken it out of the truck yet. It was still in the bed, under the tarp where I always kept it. I turned around and checked the truck bed again, like maybe I'd forgotten I already unloaded it. But no! There it was, folded up under the tarp, exactly where I'd left it the week before. So there were 2 chairs now. Mine in the truck, and this one, already set up by the water. My first thought, and I know this sounds stupid looking back, was that maybe some kids had been messing around and left a chair behind. Teenagers drink out in places like this sometimes. I walked closer, looked it over. Wasn't some cheap dollar store chair either. Actually nice. Similar style to mine, same brand even, just gray instead of green. The fabric wasn't even worn the way mine was after 4 years of sun and rain, looked almost new, like someone had bought it specifically for this. I stood there a minute, unsettled but telling myself it was nothing. Moved it off to the side, set up my own like normal. Didn't want to touch it too much, so I grabbed it by the frame and set it a few feet back near the tree line. Rest of the morning went by normally. Fished a couple hours, caught a decent catfish around 8. Mostly tried not to think about the chair. I even joked to myself that maybe some other regular had found the spot, though that didn't sit right either. If someone else fished here, I would have seen tire tracks, footprints, something, over 4 years. Around 9:30 I started packing up. Walking past the gray chair, I noticed something in the seat that hadn't been there before. A small folded piece of paper, weighed down by a rock. I almost didn't pick it up, but I did anyway. It just said, in pretty plain handwriting, "Nice spot." No name, nothing else. I stood there holding it, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it had been left before I even got there, meant for the spot in general, not me specifically. Decent explanation, and by the time I got home I'd mostly talked myself into believing it. Even laughed about it at dinner, told my roommate some weird story about a mystery chair. I took a picture of the note before throwing it out, thinking it'd make a good story to tell people later. I didn't think for a second it was the beginning of something. Didn't go back the next Saturday. But the Saturday after that, went back like normal. Gray chair was gone. Made me feel a little better. Whoever it belonged to must have come back for it. Everything that day was fine. Forgot about the whole thing pretty quickly. Work picked up, double shifts 2 weeks in a row. Fishing took a back seat. Some nights at work, standing around at 3 in the morning with nothing but empty hallways and vending machine hum, I'd think about that gray chair for no reason, then forget about it again by the time my shift ended. Wasn't until about 3 weeks later that it happened again. Pulled up at my usual time, and this time there wasn't a chair waiting. Instead, a cooler, gray one, sitting right where I usually set up. I opened it, which I probably shouldn't have. Inside, a few cans of soda and a sandwich still wrapped in plastic, still cold like it hadn't been sitting there long. I stood there, looking around the clearing. Nobody there. I walked up toward the access road just to check, thinking whoever left it might be parked further down. Nothing. Just empty road and trees. That's when it started feeling different. Not scared exactly, more confused and on edge. Nobody had ever done anything like this in 4 years, and now twice in a month, someone was leaving things in the exact place I sit. Not near it. Exactly where. Didn't fish that day. Got back in the truck and left without even taking my gear out. The following week I told myself I was being paranoid and went back anyway. I've had that spot longer than most of my friendships. Wasn't ready to walk away over a chair and a sandwich. That morning, nothing there. Felt relieved. Started feeling like maybe the whole thing really was nothing. Around 8:45, though, I noticed something across the river. There's no easy way to get to the other bank from where I fish. Water's too deep and fast. No bridge close by. You have to drive almost 40 minutes around, through private land most of the way. But there was a man standing over there, right at the edge of the tree line, looking across at me. Didn't think much of it at first. Gave a small wave, mostly out of habit. He didn't wave back. Just stood there. Not moving. Watching. Too far to make out details, no clear face, just a still shape in a dark jacket, arms down at his sides. After about a minute I looked back down at my line, telling myself he'd move along in a second. Glanced up a few seconds later. He was gone. No movement in the trees, no sound of him walking off. Just gone. Stayed another hour, but kept glancing over there more than I probably needed to. He never came back. Every time a branch moved in the wind on that side, my eyes shot straight to it, and every time it was nothing. Didn't go the next Saturday either. Spent most of that day just sitting in my apartment, restless, feeling like I was waiting for something without knowing what. 2 weeks after that, finally went back. Told myself if anything weird happened again, I just wouldn't come back to this spot anymore. Actually said that out loud in the truck. When I got there, nothing was out of place. No chair, no cooler, nobody across the river. Started to relax, thinking it had really just been some strange coincidence that ran its course. Fished about 3 hours. Around 10, decided to pack it in. Walking back to my truck, I noticed the gray chair again. This time it wasn't down by the water. It was sitting right next to my truck, in the spot where I always parked. Close enough that I'd have to walk around it to reach my door. I stopped walking. Looked around the clearing. Nobody. Just birds somewhere off in the trees and the sound of the current behind me, steady, completely indifferent to what was happening. Another piece of paper on the seat, same as before, weighed down with a rock. Picked it up anyway. See you next week. Got in the truck fast. Hands were shaking a little on the wheel. Sat there a second before starting the engine, staring straight ahead instead of looking back at the clearing. Just drove straight home, checking my mirrors more than I needed to the whole way. Called the sheriff's department that afternoon. Told them about the notes, the cooler, the guy across the river. The deputy said it sounded like someone messing with me, maybe trying to scare me off a good fishing spot. Happens sometimes in more rural areas. Said there wasn't much they could do without more to go on. Told me if I saw the man again, to call it in and not confront him, and to maybe fish somewhere else for a while. Didn't go back the following Saturday, or the one after that. First week, mostly just sat around checking my phone more than usual, though I couldn't have said what I was expecting. Nothing came. Told myself that was a good sign. I even caught myself checking the parking lot outside my apartment a couple times that week, a nervous habit that hadn't been there before. Second week, I drove past the turnoff to the access road on my way to somewhere else. Didn't turn down it. Just slowed down, looked at it for a second, kept driving. That's the whole point of the spot. You can't see it unless you're already down there, which used to feel like a comfort and now just felt like something else. It's been almost 2 months now, and I haven't been out to that spot since. I've fished at other, more public spots along the river a couple times, but it's not the same. I keep catching myself sizing up whoever else is out there, wondering if they're paying too much attention to me. A friend who still fishes out there told me a couple weeks ago he walked by that clearing and saw a chair set up by the water, facing downstream, like someone had just stepped away for a minute. Said nobody was around, didn't think much of it at the time. Wasn't until I told him what happened that he remembered it clearly enough to describe the color. He asked if I wanted him to check again next time. Told him not to bother. I still think about going back sometimes. It really was a good spot, and I miss it more than I expected to. There's nowhere else quite like it. But every time I think about driving out there, I remember standing next to that gray chair, holding that second note, and I just can't bring myself to do it. Something about that stillness across the river, the way he just stood there without moving, keeps coming back to me at random moments, driving to work, lying in bed, standing in line somewhere completely unrelated. I don't know who he is or what he wanted. Don't know if he was ever actually trying to hurt me, or if it was something else entirely. Maybe he just liked the spot too and wanted to share it in some uncomfortable, roundabout way instead of just walking up and saying something like a normal person would. I really don't know, and at this point I'm not sure I want to find out badly enough to go looking for the answer myself. What I do know is that somebody out there knows exactly where I go every Saturday morning, and knows when I'm not there. And I have no idea if he's still waiting for me to come back, sitting somewhere just out of sight, patient the same way that stillness across the river felt patient, like time didn't mean the same thing to him that it means to me.